Olá, gente, boa tarde, bem-vindo então à sessão que, na verdade, vai acontecer em boa parte em inglês, de a mesa redonda da trilha da indústria. I will switch in English here to announce people that will participate, and you can open your camera. So we have here Ed Shu. He's a musician and studied by technology. He's a CEO and co-founder of MOISES application, with experience in American companies and German companies Mava. Chu has also worked in the public sector, where he was director of the ICT service at the Justice Court here in the state of Pernambuco. And recently he completed his MBA in Management, Entrepreneurship and Marketing in PUC, Rio Grande do Sul. We also have Rodrigo Pereira from Daccord Music. He's computer engineer graduate by UPE, with an MBA in project management at for the Federal University of Pernambuco, working the development of music games at Music Games, and also in the complete process of development to implementation of the children musicalization project in schools by Scribble. And since in 2016, he is dedicated to innovation for audio and music technologies and experience in the complete operation of the e-commerce of Daccord Music. Since 2019, he has been coordinating the Port Digital Residence for the training of people in the IT area. And finally, I have, I would say, my friend and former co-advisor, François Paché, who is director of the Spotify Creator Technology Research Lab. It's a long thing. He will stay all the afternoon here just to give a brief review of François CV. But let's go. So at Spotify, he designs the next generation of AI-based tools for musicians. With the label Flow Records, he released the Hello World, the first music album composed with artificial intelligence. This album is the result of a collaboration between AI, Benoit Carré, also known by Skije, and many other musicians, Stromae, etc. Prior to Spotify, François Paché has been director of Sony Computer Science Labs at Paris. At Sony, he set up a music research working on interactive music listening, composition, and performance. There he conducted the ERC-funded Flow Machines project, during which he developed a technology for style imitation under user constraints. This project produced the first mainstream music title, Daccord. François is also a guitarist, I would say, a very good guitarist, and composed and published several albums. His latest book is Histoire d'une oreille, A História do Ouvido. It's an augmented book about how musical ear developed through musical listening. So everybody, welcome. You have 10 to 15 minutes to talk a little bit about this subject, challenges and trends of computer music market, and then we are open to questions of the audience. Who'd like to start? Eddie? I'm provoking.
All right.
Okay, Eddie, let's go.
Well, actually, after hearing everything that all of these guys accomplished, like I just feel that I have so much to learn here. So I would actually let them start. But anyways, well, we have had a previous conversation before, and it's so amazing to see where the industry is going, right? So of course at MOISES, we work with source separation. We had just a talk from Igor this week, talking a little bit more about the subject. But what I feel about source separation, I believe that maybe we are in a moment in history. And what I'm trying to say is the music that we listen today, we might be able to have greater control over it. So what I mean by that is, since like the radio or the speaker was invented, and how people consume music, we basically have the play and pause button, skip, and somebody invented the boost bass feature that we see in so many speakers. But the consumer, in the end of the day, doesn't have a truly smart speaker today. The smart speaker, so it's mostly focused on sharing and asking things to Alexa, for example. But what I feel it's for the music consuming part, people will have greater control. So, for example, muting the vocals or reducing the levels of drums, for example, of individual tracks. So, what source separation, and for the people who are listening here, I believe that Francois could do a way better explanation than myself. But basically, source separation is the how the academia shares how you can separate tracks from original source. So you put basically a song from Billie Eilish, and then you get her voice, or just the bass line, or just the drums. So what I feel is that what MOISES is doing today, it's a moment in history, but what I feel is that the labels and the artists themselves might grant to their audience the tracks already, the original stems. So this is a topic that I'm very curious to hear what Francois thinks about this, and we are learning a lot through this journey. So it would be amazing to hear his perspective, and also Rodrigo's too.
We'd like to start with this. We can also do this, and instead of you talking a lot, we can also put a subject on the table, and we can go forward. Why not? Okay, reactions.
My name was mentioned, so I feel I have to say something.
Yeah, you're supposed to do something.
I don't know. I agree that yes, all the technologies that we are seeing will definitely allow more control, and that's a very old desire. Actually, I think this idea of controlling not only the music we listen to, but even the works of art, even the books, and so that I think I would trace back to Umberto Eco in the 60s, and the opera aperta, the open work. This concept is very old, and it's only now that we can actually start to do it. So source separation, of course, is one way, and many others. I want to say something about music. I work at Spotify, but I don't feel as a very good representative of what's going on in the industry in general. Probably people like you are probably more representative. What I want to say is a figure I've seen very recently about what's going on let's say, in the world of mainstream music. So every day on Spotify, actually on all any platform, there is every day 60,000 new titles uploaded every day, and that is approximately as much as they used to be in the 90s per year in the UK. So this figure is very impressive, because it means that not only there is more music now, there is much more. There are I think that the number is like 70 million titles probably on the platforms. So it's something that we are completely not used to. And so there are, I think, a lot of consequences to this. Not only, of course, the mere music information retrieval, how to find interesting music, of course. But there is another consequence, because Jeber is pushing us to speak freely, right? So let's speak freely. I think that the consequence is that music today has nothing to do with what music was in 30 years or 40 years ago. I'm not saying it's less good. That would be really stupid to say that. I'm saying the function of music is different. So, and that's a subject I throw in here. So maybe it's for you to react and say that you don't agree. But it seems to me that until the 60s, 70s, 80s, of course, the Beatles, but Pink Floyd and so forth. And the jazz and John Coltrane and Wes Montgomery and all the Django Reinhardt, and I can list and Carlos Jobim and George Gilberto and maybe Ginga, who is not very young. I mean, so you had music that could really change people's life, right? So some people would listen to, for instance, Sgt. Pepper when it came out, and they thought, my God, I did not know it was possible to do that. And sometimes it would change our lives, right? So it happens also in jazz. If you listen to Michel Petrucciani talking about the first time he listened to John Coltrane, and it was like a knife. He was stabbed with a knife in his heart. He said, my God, I didn't know it was possible to do, and it changes his life, right? So you know these stories. And the same for Brazilian music and the same for many things. But today, I don't think that today's music is changing anyone's life. So you have much more, and I'm not saying it's less good, and I'm not saying it's because the composers are not good. It's not true. They are very good, they are very talented, and also have lots of tools, as we know, because we build these tools actually. But it's just that if you hear something now on the music, on the radio, you know, we have listened to everything possible already. So it's very hard to be surprised. Very difficult. It's not impossible. So what I am throwing in, I am completely destroying your panel, JBR, because it was supposed to be on the industry. But industry has to do with quantity, right? Industry exists only because there is this thing called the streaming, and the music now is out there very easily accessible and all that. And I would say, if we want to understand what's going on, maybe the first question is music the same thing, right? It was basically like art, and it has become a commodity. So, and I am proposing the statement that music is a different thing today. We are not talking about the same thing. And the problem is that in the catalog, in the music that is available, everything is mixed together. You have Mozart, the Beatles, and you have also rap, and you have everything is at the same, same level if you want. But all these kinds of music have different roles and functions. So I would say that if we want to talk about what the industry is doing, what are the challenges, what we're trying to do, what we achieve, what are the difficulties, I would say the first thing is, what the fuck are we talking about when we talk about music? No, right? JBR, answer.
Thanks for the someone would like to answer? I have perhaps some answers here, but are you with my invite?
I can comment a little bit. I think this is a very interesting topic, Francois. And I have a personal story regarding like the chaos of having so much music. And I used to be a Apple Music subscriber, but one of the reasons I moved to Spotify was that what I was getting as suggestions and recommendations was the music that actually captured what the things that I valued, but the issue here that you pointed out, I think very well, is that sometimes we have so much content, right? And how can we discover the content that will actually make a life-changing moment, like you mentioned, like you mentioned Carlos Jobim, right? So how can we find this content, and what can we do to help people, like sometimes break that pattern, of just having the same sort of recommendations, and also discover the things that could, and maybe music changed also because the behavior and the society, we're so in a rush. We are in a society now, in a moment in history where everything is so instant, and where everything is so, we have to consume now and have to have it now. And back in the days, I think we would go to a CD, back in my days, right? Because we have so many Generation Z people listening to this panel now, but back in the day we used to go to a record store and or even get tapes, right? Or vinyls, and actually that was the only music that we had, and I would listen over and over because that was the only the only content that I had, and I actually valued it more, right? Because I had to spend time, and we had to spend time, listening, and we would listen so much, and we would capture every detail. I'm a bit confused, or I'm not sure if the creativity of people change. I believe that people still get creative, maybe it's like how we're living today and how everything is so fast that sometimes we might not take that moment to sit down, relax, and really appreciate what people are crafting.
I will say some words on the provocation of Francois. First one is, but Francois, there is the long tail. I think it's true that there are a lot of things, but now I think the cost of storing things and distributing content is almost nothing. In fact, it has all this thing about the long tail. It's an old concept now, 15 years old concept, but it's still interesting. For example, talking that we have nothing different, but just before we start this round table, we're talking about Ginga, so this Brazilian guitar player and composer. And I said that I play guitar for more than 40 years. And in one song, I found more than 15 chords that I've never seen in my life. So I think that there is novelties, but it's true that it's not simple to find its novelty in all this ocean of lot of things that you have every day you can see. But 15 years ago, I had no idea of Ginga. I know nothing about this, and it was hard, as Ed said, to find the things that I'm most interested in. So now we can develop a niche economy when we start listening to the songs only you or few people like. It's not the case before. And another thing that you said that's very interesting is about functions. What are the functions of music? This is a very good debate. And I think that if you start thinking that, for example, there are people that listen to music just to read or to make gym or to make different things, and these are different functions of song. And perhaps this could also justify, although I don't think that you need some kind of justification, but let's say to open more space to AI-generated music. Because, for example, if you guys want to do music just to run and make gym, why make him to listen to Giga? It's better to listen to something else. And why not to create this on AI basis with the right beat, and that will optimize his performance as a gym maker. Let's say it like this. Rodrigo, if you want to speak in Portuguese, you can do. Se você quiser falar em português, Rodrigo, pode fazer e eu resumo aqui para a galera, tá?
Vou fazer. Como eu peço...
I summarize earlier for you, François, Rodrigo. Go, okay. Vai, Rodrigo.
Ok. Não, vou fazer uma contribuição rápida só em relação ao que o Ed falou, e também pegando o gancho do que o François falou a respeito se a gente está, de fato, conseguindo fazer a música hoje mudar a vida das pessoas ou atingir as pessoas de forma forte. E o quanto isso também pode estar linkado com outras mudanças que a gente vem conseguindo perceber na cadeia completa. A gente na Daccord hoje está muito ligado com o aprendizado, a gente sempre teve muito ligado com o aprendizado. A gente identifica que esse pouco contato, ou esse contato muito rápido com a música, acaba por fazer também um impacto muito negativo no aprendizado musical, aprendizado de instrumento, e toda essa cadeia. A gente identificou, dentro de um projeto de inovação que a gente trabalha hoje, e conversando com a indústria aqui no Brasil de violões, o quanto está sendo difícil renovar o público, o quanto está sendo difícil para essa indústria se manter, vamos dizer assim, num patamar de inovação ou de novos produtos. A gente hoje não tem veja, a gente falou de 25 anos atrás, imagine na década de 90, quantas vezes você ouvia a mesma música no mesmo dia, e hoje, quanto tempo fica uma música no top 100 do Spotify? Quanto tempo? Não fica, é muito difícil permanecer por algum tempo. Uma semana já é uma coisa dos top hits, top 10 talvez. Então, esse contato muito rápido, ele gera um impacto grande em várias áreas da cadeia. Eu diria que no aprendizado também, que nos afeta mais ativamente, é um impacto também bastante negativo e que a gente precisa trabalhar em cima.
Okay, it seems that Jordan is translating to you.
Yes, no problem.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one thing to. Oh, sorry, Francois. Go ahead.
No, please.
Go ahead.
I also feel that with all the technology advancements and and the easy access to we have a telephone today that has a microphone, and what I feel is that more people today may have easy access also to record music also, and this is being mirrored in what we also see. Back in the days, I remember that I had so many trouble to start a recording, and even thinking about publishing anything was something so distant, and I also feel that what happened in the like in the last years is that now it's also easier for people to put content in front of greater audiences, and it's also part of what we are living, right? So in one hand, we have so many people, so many creative people that have access to devices and recording, and like it's not, they don't have to buy a tape anymore and try to record themselves. And maybe one of the reasons we also see so much content now is also because it's more accessible and maybe democratic. So sometimes I try to think a little bit through before sharing my opinions about what the heck music is today, because it's so many different variables playing into what we are seeing and living. And I just had this thought about that. It's a whole new ecosystem now where everybody now can like show, and many times they might not be life-changing experiences, or it might not be like Ginga, that you can see so many different nuances on their chord, on his chords and so on, but maybe in the other hand, we see people that now they have access, and although they're not that amazing, they might be a Ginga one day. So I just think like this, and we might find great Gingas in this whole chaos. And I feel that maybe as people that are working with so many amazing technologies, how can we help people discover those Gingas and those amazing artists?
So, François.
Yes. So, yeah. Sorry. Yes, I can jump on this let's say try to come back a little bit on the theme of the workshop, which is about industry. So, so as far as I am concerned, we have been working for a long time on trying to use the AI to let's say to assist music creation. Just so I don't want to show slides, but it's a bit heavy, but I can just go through what I wanted to say, because I think it's related to what we are talking about. So
go ahead.
So basically, so I work now for Spotify, as Javier said, for like a bit more than 4 years. We are a research team of about 10 people. And so the pitch is that, Spotify is so there is an official mission of Spotify that you may know or not, which is exactly give a million creative artists the opportunity to live off their art, and billions of fans the opportunity to enjoy and be inspired by it, which means by the music. So basically you have billions of listeners and you have millions of artists, right? And so in Spotify, in my team, we are not working for the listeners, which is the core business of Spotify, but more for the artists. So we are developing tools for what we call the AI assisted creation. And the main target of these tools is not, so we're not really like an academic lab publishing many papers, but trying to really build tools that are embedded in a platform called Soundtrap. So Soundtrap is a DAW, it's an online music editor that you can use on the web, right? And it's multi-platform and collaborative and as very simple to use. So we're trying to, the last years, many people, and us included, have done what we can call a proof of concept. You're trying to show that AI could be used also for making interesting music. And I think that we showed that with a couple of albums like Hello World and American Folk Songs and all that. But now that is done, and other people have done that too. Now the next challenge is how do we go from there to building actual tools that we can ship, as we say, or that we can be used by many users, actually millions of artists. You know, there are probably a couple of million artists in the world, which is, by the way, quite a lot. And so I had many things. But you know, before coming here, I was trying to summarize what I could have to say, and I have a couple of points. But I want just to mention one point, okay? Which is the following. So, as you know, AI recently, the last years, has you have probably heard Jean-Pierre Briot has made a talk about AI and music. So there are lots of very powerful new techniques coming in, and the question is, do better models actually generate better music? So it's a question that is not very good, well defined, because better models, I think we know what it means. You know, for instance, if you do style imitation, a better model will imitate better in some, and you can define this more or less with statistical measures and stuff. Better music is more difficult to define, but because you know we cannot say this is good, this is bad. It's very hard. But I want to say two things here. First of all, come back to the origins of AI and music, the Iliac Suite 1956, which is what, 70 years ago, or something like that, almost. And you can listen to this on YouTube. It's very interesting. And then you can also listen to Deep Bark, which is a thing we did a few years ago with RNNs. Which actually, in principle, both systems actually address the same issue, trying to generate music, choral music for voice, more or less using the rules of Baroque music. And the second one is obviously using a model that is so much more powerful than the Markov chains that they used in the 50s, right? It's no comparison in terms of better models. But if you ask me, I prefer to listen to the Iliac Suite. Why? I'm not sure, but because it's more interesting. It's more strange. It's like I prefer to listen to Ginga with his strange chords than to listen to an average bossa nova player, because he's going to do always the same thing, right? So I think you understand Gilberto. And so it's a paradox because the technique is so much better. The result is not necessarily more interesting. And I don't know what it means to be interesting. And let's not go that way because it would be endless. And I want to quote here, I want to quote Douglas Eck. You know, so Douglas Eck has this, running this team called Magenta at Google. And recently, a few weeks ago, he made a keynote speech for a conference called ICCC, which is a computational creativity conference, which has been going on for 10 years or so. And I can just quote a few sentences from the abstract of his keynote. So this guy has been working on deep learning, actually, for maybe about 10 years probably, to apply deep learning techniques to music generation and text generation. And he's they have done a lot of stuff, And he says, so I'm just reading his abstract here. Don't accuse me of stealing. I'm just reading a Douglas abstract. I will argue that generative machine learning models by themselves are of limited creative value because they are hard to use in our current music creation workflow. That's not me talking here. Blah, blah, so forth, I cut. And then overall, my message, his keynote message, will be one of restrained enthusiasm. Recent research in machine learning has offered some amazing advances, yes, in tools for music creation. But aside from a few outlier examples, we have yet to bring these models successfully into creative practice. And when I read this, I thought, hey, I'm not alone in the world anymore. Because I was thinking about that for a long time. Okay, and then I will stop. Sorry, guys, and then I will leave you talk. I want to jump on another subject, but which is very related, which is something that we kind of discovered, let's say, during our 4 years of working at industrially, which is in fact also the paradox. So suppose that you have a button that would generate incredibly good music. So this is what everybody is trying to do actually in the research, right? An algorithm using a GAN or RNN or whatever, that generate very good music. So the problem is that you run into a big problem, which is actually well known in psychology, which is called the IKEA effect. So IKEA in Brazil. Do you have IKEA? So
yes.
So the IKEA effect is a cognitive. Is a cognitive bias, which is being studied for a long time in psychology, by which consumers place a disproportionately high value on products they partially created. For instance, there is a study which is already 2011, found that subjects were willing to pay 63% more for furniture that they have assembled themselves rather than the equivalent pre-assembled item. So basically, it means that when you do something yourself, you think it has more value. And actually, it seems quite reasonable, but it's a bias because it tends to push people to do irrational things. For instance, when you sell your house, if you have built yourself the roof, for instance, suppose you know how to build a roof, I'm not able, then when you will sell it, you will tend to put a higher price because you think that the roof that you have built is worth more than the roof built by someone else. And this is absolutely confirmed. This is a mass effect. No, I come back to music now, but the music is the same. So if you have an algorithm that generates very nice music, if you don't do anything, you don't care about it. You don't care. So it's not going to be your song. So because in the end, what do we want? And that's where industry and academy diverge, I think. So academia is just interested in how can I generate a good song. I am simplifying. The problem that no one wants to own this song, right? So if you have a button that generates something, you don't care. What you want is to generate something that you feel that you own, right? And that has a lot of value. Actually, when you build a tool, that's what you want. You don't want people to do great stuff. You want to do people that they think are great, okay? It's very different. And so the IKEA effect applies, of course, that's my statement, my proposal, my belief, let's say. It also, of course, applies to creative artifacts like music. So we have to build not necessarily algorithms which are very powerful and generate lots of fancy stuff. We have to have to algorithm by which people at the end think that what they have done is their thing. And that is very difficult because it's not only a technical problem of generation, it's also HCI, UX interface problem, a psychological problem, and the problem that we have no clue about what's going on in music. We don't know what it means. to own something. What we have, I mean, we are very, very at the very beginning of this. So just to summarize this, because industry, you know, what's the difference? Industry. So academia, we're interested in generating music that has many properties of existing music, specifically, typically statistical properties. You know, industry, we don't care. We're interested in generating stuff that people will like, and people will think that it's their stuff, you know? So the problem is very, very different. And just to end on that, I just want to announce that a few weeks ago, we released our first product in Soundtrap. It's a very small feature called a rhythm template. It's basically doing some kind of what we call rhythm transfer. So you take a piece of MIDI of music, another piece of music, and you take the rhythm of the first and you apply it to the harmony of the second. It creates something new. And it's a lot of fun, actually. And it works very well. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to brag too much, but the thing is that this kind of algorithm creates a sense of ownership because the user has to choose, you know, he has to choose what he wants to mix. And if he does not choose well, the result is not going to be interesting. So if you find a couple of stuff that actually works, in the end, you really think it's your thing, right? So that's, to me, an interesting example of an algorithm that creates a sense of appropriation. And it's a small example. We had already 1 million users, so we are very proud. By the way, Soundtrap is free. You can use it for free. You can register to Soundtrap. It's a free thing. But you see, we are very far from the sophistication of deep learning stuff that generate complex multi-track, blah, 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 but which can be very impressive. But in the end, they don't have necessarily a lot of value because the users don't feel it's their thing.
This is
great,
so amazing.
Great. I would like to say something, but
No, you cannot.
Yeah, I have lots of things to share too.
Rodrigo, go ahead.
Francois, so first, congratulations on Soundtrap. I downloaded myself the app, and I think it's very interesting. And I really wanted to check out this feature. And I think you mentioned something that it truly resonates with our core mission at MOISES. At MOISES, our mission, I think you started reading the Spotify mission, so I'm just gonna just share ours too, because our mission it's basically to empower people to reach their full creative potential. And one thing that we've learned through our research, so I had to personally interview so many people to understand their creative process. So from a human perspective, from a creative perspective, what do artists, how their workflow, and you mentioned that also, right, Francois, that the workflow of an artist, it's not about like, okay, press a button and generate the song. So it's so complex and beautiful at the same time. And one thing that we wanted to do at MOISES was to, create a great partnership with the universities and feel that collaboration. And one of the first hypothesis was like, oh, let's partner with someone that, maybe generate lyrics for people. And the first thing that we did was like, hey, let's hold for a second. Let's basically take a step back. And there's one thing that Alberto Savoia, he teaches at Stanford, and he used to be at Google as well as a product manager, and he founded a couple of companies as well. And I love what he says, like, we should build the right it, not to build it right. And this is amazing because like we should build things that truly changes people's lives, and how can we empower people to reach their creative potential, right? So before we started developing anything, and before we started to train our own GPT 2 or 3 models, we decided to go to the user to observe how people compose music, how people create. And I had the privilege of participating in a bunch of these interviews. And we realized that people really want to be part of the process. They don't want to be substituted, and they want to have something doing for them. They really wanted to, as Francois said, basically have their creativity.
Belonging sense.
Exactly, that sense of belonging and having, maybe their creativity expanded, not overtaken. right? So we at MOISES, we also have our research, and we always start with the people, right? We start with the musicians, and we as musicians, we try our best, you know, to harness the technology instead of say, hey, this technology is amazing, let's use it. No. Let's truly understand the problems that we have, and how can we leverage the amazing technology to solve those problems. So using technology as the medium, not the end, right? So as a way to achieve a greater purpose, right? Not to basically substitute. And I love what Francois said, that at the university, we love the engineering of it, right? So we want to create and generate, and, you know, like the goal is we see the beauty of the engineering there. But for the industry side, what we see is that people want to create, people want to belong, people want to be seen, people want to be heard, right? So this is something that I feel that there's so much room for us to create amazing tools like Francois is creating, you know, that helps people, you know, achieve their creative potential, right? So through tools like what he's doing at Soundtrap, you know, we can see something like that happening, you know. And interestingly enough, this previous the last weekend, our research team just shared with us on Slack a notebook, you know, a Python notebook with the first, you know, with the first, how to say, fruits of what we are doing for to assist people create lyrics. And I said, okay, you know what? I love composing music as well. So let me see if this thing is actually legit before we build any UI or anything further. So let me take a look. So they shared with me the notebook. There was no UI, there's no product, there's nothing, right? So I took my time, and what I have it here is the lyric that I created, assisted by the AI, right? So we are using our own trained GPT-2 models, and we are doing a lot of research on this field. And what this lyric did, and we also recorded the song. I wish I could have it here to play for you guys, maybe later. But we recorded the song, and what I found that was most amazing is that I feel that the music is mine, but the AI assisted me to find and to expand my vocabulary and give me hints for rhymes. So we took time to, you know, like scrape lots of, you know, lyrics and get some people collaborating on sharing with us so many good texts with poems, lyrics, and so on. We train our own models, and now we have some suggestions that are musically and make musical sense.
Cool.
So this is the thing that I'm super excited about, to see the industry taking this technology and making it serve a purpose, an ultimate purpose that changed people's lives, like Francois said in the beginning of this panel.
And can I, sorry, just about that, just so do you why and or how do you feel that the result is yours? I mean, how do you feel the sense of appropriation? Because if I understand, the system is generating lyrics in a kind of probably controllable way.
Yes. So let me just explain a little bit. I start with a verse, you know, and what we learned, and basically I'm sharing the learns of our research, but what we learned is that people sometimes they get stuck. So during the workflow of the creative process, people get stuck. And why they get stuck? Sometimes people get stuck because they don't want to repeat a word, for example, or they don't know a word that has that meaning that they want, and they could also find an alternative word. So what we've learned, like many people go to Google, for example, and they use dictionaries, or they use even like paper based dictionaries. And when people get stuck, you know, they naturally, and this is what we try to observe, what they do when they get stuck, you know. Sometimes they go to Google, sometimes they open a book, sometimes they open a magazine and try to see other resources. And what we are actually doing here is basically giving suggestions of like, okay, you can highlight this word. I'll give you like a couple of suggestions of what can rhyme with you, with your music in the context, you know, because what you will see many websites on the web is that like they will suggest rhymes, but they're completely out of context. And like if you suggest 30 rhymes to someone, it's overwhelming and it will be a bit frustrating because like, okay, I'm talking about cars, not bars. So I don't know, you know, like, so this is something that we learned, that it's not about giving to the musician like 100 rhymes for them or 100 synonyms. It's about giving what they need at their time. And this is super complicated. And that's where our research is going. But I'm very proud. And I'll send to you guys after the panel the song that we created. So that song, it has 3 major blocks. And basically the AI was very helpful in 7 different moments where it suggested some words and I use it. So basically I feel that the song it's mine, although I use it to assist and expand my vocabulary, you know, and give some different, you know, rhymes for me.
Cool.
Good example. I'd like to put Rodrigo in the discussion. Rodrigo, this is somehow connected. It's not the same, but to something we have discussed earlier, is this attention and listening that we need to have to our users. You have also some examples of the things you developed in Daccord, and it didn't work because you have not listened enough to the final users. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Isso, até diante do exposto aí, na fala do Ed, acho interessante, e também, já do que o François falou, tem uma palavra que eu acho que combina muito com isso, e muito na realidade brasileira também, que é a palavra da empatia. O usuário ele quer ter empatia pelo que ele está ouvindo. Então, por exemplo, a gente pode se perguntar por que o funk carioca nunca deixa de ser, de estar em alta dentro das favelas do Rio, dentro das comunidades, porque ele é feito lá. Quem faz o funk, e como o Ed falou, sente que a música é dele. E ele não quer um botão onde ele aperte e o funk saia pronto, porque ele não vai ter a representatividade, ele não vai se sentir representado naquela música gerada. E eu acho que isso é muito dentro só contando um caso interessante, a gente tem um software que a gente vende na Daccord, que é muito usado também para esse tipo de produção musical, que é o FL Studio. E eu recebi, uma vez eu tive um reporte alto de downloads, do trial desse software em Belém do Pará, que não fazia o menor sentido para mim. Porque em Belém do Pará, assim, se fosse no Rio, se fosse em São Paulo, que tem o hip hop, que tem o reggae, o rap, faria algum sentido. Até em Recife, que a gente tem o passinho, alguns ritmos também que se desenvolvem assim. E aí, quando eu fui pesquisar, a gente estava tendo uma alta devido a um hit que estava saindo lá em Belém do Pará, de Tecnobrega, que é um ritmo muito regionalizado lá, e que o pessoal estava usando esse software para fazer. E teve uma alta grande de downloads muito focada naquele momento específico daquele hit, ou seja, um software que teve uma demanda alta que sequer estava identificada. Mas só trazendo um pouco também para dentro do que o GB, eu tinha falado com o GB mais cedo, a respeito de como a gente deve ouvir a ponta, né? Ouvir o usuário, como a gente tem tentado fazer isso aqui dentro da Daccord, nos softwares que a gente está desenvolvendo, nos projetos que a gente está desenvolvendo. Sobre o quanto o usuário está sendo ouvido, o quanto a gente está realmente fazendo algo para atingir esse ponto de empatia e representatividade. Ou seja, dentro dos nossos softwares hoje, que estão mais ligados, como falei anteriormente, à aprendizagem de instrumento, a gente captou uma série de feedbacks que diziam para a gente que a gente não estava no caminho certo. E a partir dali foi que a gente moldou o que a gente estava fazendo dentro a partir desse feedback. E eu acho que isso, às vezes, a gente tem uma dificuldade na comunicação, quando a gente parte só do paper, só da pesquisa, e não consegue trazer isso na comunicação para a ponta. eu até tinha comentado com o Geber mais cedo, que é o seguinte, a comunicação dessas três pontas, né, da indústria, da pesquisa e do usuário. Uma ponte está faltando nessa, né, está faltando uma ponte nesse triângulo aí, para conseguir fazer tudo isso unir num produto final de empatia, né, para a pesquisa gerar o produto de forma sistemática, gerando patente, gerando coisa de fato de valor no mercado final. Então, é um ponto aí que eu acho que a gente podia ter abordado.
Legal, Rodrigo. I'd like to summarize. Let's say that, Francois, what you said is that, in fact, we should work more on co-creation than on fully automated music creation. And you gave us two good reasons for that. One is that AI is not good enough. And the second one is that people need to have this sense of ownership, of belonging. But if you, my question is, if you are thinking more, not only on lay users or beginning musicians, but on really experts, and I'd like to make the connection with your previous question, what kind of music can change my life? In fact, if you look to the history, we had not a lot of musicians or composers that changed the life of someone. We have perhaps lot of years sometimes between a Bach and a Beethoven and this kind of thing. But do you think that this new generation of music that can also astonish people could come from this cooperation between AI and really expert musicians, that professional musicians? This could give us something really new. That's time.
Yeah, if you ask me, yes, I believe in that. And actually, I mean, I know it's difficult to compare music, but to something else. But for instance, in the chess, you know that the Go or even the chess recently, there were matches done by AI, and it's and now you know that you don't have competitions really between AI. What you have is competitions where the humans use systems to compete against each other. So it's really an AI enhanced chess, if you want. But there are, I mean, thanks to AI, there have been moves, incredible moves in chess that nobody would think they were good moves, but actually they were. And it's the same for Go, of course. So yes, I think it's still possible to create surprise and unheard. I mean, a completely new thing. And is it possible only with AI? I don't know. But I mean, the reason why I'm doing AI in the industry is actually because I think, yes, that it's possible. I felt also myself a little bit jaded, you know, because, okay, apart from Ginga, who is great, but apart from a few people like this, I had problems, you know, renewing my music interest. So yes, I strongly believe that AI can help people doing incredible new stuff. But it's an hypothesis. I mean, we'll see, right? So I can give you another example also, which I think we are so early in the process of understanding how AI can be used. I come back to Ginga, you know. I don't know if many people know Ginga in Brazil, but so this guitarist, incredible. So recently I did a transcription, you know, of one of his songs. It took me some time because it's really hard. And but then when I have finished, you know, I had learned so much. So I shared my transcription with some people, and including a guy who also makes also transcription. And then
including I discovered.
Sorry?
Including me?
Yes. No, but I found another guy, another guitarist in France who has actually done other transcriptions of Ginga, and he's trying to sell them, right? And then I understood something very simple, that it's incredible to have access to transcriptions today. When I studied guitar, I didn't have anything, you know, I just have like a vinyl record, that's all. now you have all, it's incredible, but in fact, it does not help, because you learn, when you do the transcription, you learn a lot. When someone gives you the transcription, you don't learn anything. You do not learn anything. So there is also a kind of, let's say, this deception in the fact that everything is available, but if you don't do any effort to try to understand, you actually don't learn anything. And that's very, very interesting, because currently you have so much, for instance, pedagogical material on the web, YouTube videos. A few weeks ago, I attended, there is this Brazilian guy, Peter Farrell, doing George Benson clinics, which are completely incredible. It's a 1 week, right? But in fact, so he is playing exactly like George Benson, but you don't learn anything. In order to learn this, you just have to work for 10 years, and that's it, you know? So there is a kind of also something that it's a lie. It's a lie that making things available, using the technology and all that is going to make things easier. So in the end, I strongly believe that if you work a lot, you learn. And it's the same for listening to music. If you listen to a lot of music, you work a lot, then you are able to discover a new thing. I mean, the only reason why you are so excited with Ginga, and I am also, is because we have played guitar for such a long time. But if you play this to non-guitarists, they don't care, right? And so we never talk about the fact that to learn and to enjoy things, you have to work. You have to work a lot. And if you don't work, you never do anything. You never enjoy really anything. I believe in that. I mean, but that's something that's almost taboo today. Because
it's connected to this idea of the sense of belonging. If you spend time, you have the sense of belonging. If you spend no time, it's no effort, you have no this sense.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so I think the effort, right, and what Francois mentioned, like you own that, right, that ownership. Like I spent time, you know, like digesting that and crafting, mastering my craft, right? But I also have a comment, like for the first section of what Francois brought. We were discussing about the role of AI, you know, maybe helping people generate and create new music and so on. But what we learned also was that people are also recreating or revisiting music that was produced before. So one example that I'll give today is the song from Beth Carvalho. Beth Carvalho, she was a very famous sambista, right? A samba lady composer from the 70s. She was very famous there. And what AI helped the producer Cassin, he's a Latino Grammy Award winner, and he took the stems. He used AI. He used our AI to separate and extract the voice of Beth Carvalho from a live song, you know, and the daughter of Beth Carvalho jumped into the production, and she sang with her mother that passed away, and they made a duo that what would be never possible today, and they published on Spotify also. And people can listen today to this duo, you know. So she made this homage to her mother, you know, and did a modernized version of Visual, which is the song name, and you can listen on Spotify. I'll be sharing the link here so people can share. So I think that it's not just assisting people on create new music, but also assisting people, you know, revisit and create versions that we would never think it was possible. Another example would be the singer of Paramore, which she posted on Instagram, a Brazilian guy using MOISES, and basically he removed her guitars, and he used you know, I see the roads behind you in your background, Francois. So he basically was playing piano, and he did like a bossa nova version of a Paramore song, which was like, for the artist, was like, wow, I never thought about that, and this is amazing. And she basically shared on her Instagram stories, and we feel that this is so amazing. You know, I think the role of AI, if we use technology to fulfill a purpose, we will have so much delight and maybe less, you know, how do I say,
jadedness, or
maybe yes. Thanks, Mesa.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Yes, with that. JBR, it's not good because we agree. A good panel is when people don't agree.
That's okay. That's okay. In fact, I was planning that everybody would spend 50 minutes talk, but it will start to debate very early. But that's very good. I'm just seeing that if you have some questions here. I listened a little bit of the song you just mentioned. Very interesting. Let's see. Questions. There are a lot of comments here in YouTube, but not necessarily questions. One question was already answered, that do you guys think that we are converging to the co-created music generation rather than something full automatic? I guess that's
yes,
already answered. Sure. Okay. I have another question just to change, because we are all on the same page, let's say, that do you think that this pandemic brought different kind of challenge, talking about industry now, especially for startups like Daccord? I don't know if MOISES is still in startup, but anyway, in terms of human capital and all this, because now we have really problems all around to have people to work on these fancy, interesting projects. And you'd like to say something about that, Rodrigo? We are changing completely in the subject, but there was no question, so.
Ok, eu posso começar. Eu falo na perspectiva da Daccord, uma empresa menor, uma empresa ainda um tamanho menor, e a gente teve que, na pandemia, entender nosso papel, acima de tudo. Entender que com a queda das barreiras de forma tão drástica, manter capital humano e conseguir atrair capital humano ficou cada vez mais difícil, né? Então, eu tinha até, quando eu conversei mais cedo, assim, preparado alguma coisa para mostrar, mas não precisa, só um ponto que eu achei interessante de uma palestra sobre isso que eu vi recentemente, que está ultrapassada aquela visão de que você precisa, aquela visão da mesa de ping-pong na empresa, sabe? Acabou, não adianta mais você ter a mesa de ping-pong ou a sala de diversão, não é isso que vai mais ser atrativo para esse profissional. E para a gente, como uma empresa menor, a gente teve que entender o nosso papel de formador. Eu convoco e clamo a todas as empresas com quem eu converso hoje para que sejam também empresas formadoras. Eu hoje sou, de certa forma, canibalizado. Assim, a empresa menor, a startup, eu formo e dificilmente eu consigo ficar mais de um ano com um bom recurso, com um bom profissional, e isso é, de certa forma, bastante impactante. Até a gente conseguir, de fato, atingir um produto ou atingir ali o projeto que nos faça subir de patamar, a gente vai enfrentar isso e entender esse papel faz parte da nossa sobrevivência. No entanto, eu acho que esse problema tem que ser compartilhado de todas as formas e por todas as empresas, no papel de formação, no papel de trazer mais gente, porque hoje o gap é gigantesco. Eu falo também aqui pelo papel que exerço hoje aqui no Porto Digital e converso com as empresas, então isso todos vocês devem estar sentindo, a dificuldade de encontrar mão de obra, a gente só vai conseguir trabalhando a base, trabalhando de fato desde o começo. O trabalho que a gente tem tentado fazer hoje é aproximar a Daccord das disciplinas desde a universidade, no começo mesmo, quando o aluno entra na universidade, já tem um contato próximo com a temática, com o que a gente está fazendo, com os produtos, para gerar um interesse, para gerar até aquela sensação de pertencimento que a gente estava falando, e daí conseguir daí você ser atrativo. E aí eu tento, dentro desse contexto, apresentar uma empresa flexível, apresentar uma empresa com perspectiva, com a chance do cara construir aqui dentro a história dele, mas ainda dentro desse papel de formador, como uma empresa menor.
Someone wants to add something? Go ahead.
Hey, Francois. I have something to say also. Did I, Francois?
I guess that Francois is getting the translation. So go ahead. Ed.
So I'll go ahead.
Please.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rodrigo. It's not about the ping pong tables anymore, you know, like, and of course the pandemic changed everything and many things actually. But one thing that I feel that it's something that truly inspires people to join the company and stay in the company is also the sense of purpose that we've been talking about, you know. So people, why do I will wake up every day, you know, to join a company that doesn't really resonate to how my heart beat, right? So this is something that I think it's super important when we have a compelling mission, that people feel the purpose of waking up the next day and joining that team, you know. And something that I will steal a quote from Simon Sinek here, but basically he says that companies should have a just cause, a cause that is so just that people will be willing to sacrifice, and people will be willing to wake up at that every day. And it's a cause that it's not achievable, but it's so inspiring, and it's not moved by technology, and it's not moved by political situations, you know. So it's something that it's our responsibility as companies, you know, to share a compelling, you know, cause, a compelling mission where people can feel that they are part of something greater than, you know, themselves. So I think this is something that we always share at our company at MOISES, you know, and we have a specific Slack channel where we are always sharing how we are achieving this mission. So when people are putting their reviews on App Store or Google Play or sharing on Instagram, we are always, you know, like pointing back to, this is why we do what we do. This is why we wake up the next day, because this makes us inspired. So whenever we see a post on Instagram of somebody, you know, like sharing their favorite covers, or the singer of Paramore, for example, sharing how somebody made a brand new version of her song, this truly helps us stay connected to our core mission, you know, and helps us, you know, stay in the company, because the pandemic made so much, you know, like access to foreign companies to come to Brazil, for example, where we are. And there's a point where salaries, they're basically like, every salary is already high, you know. So when you have the basic needs fulfilled, you know, and I was talking to Geber in the other day, like when we have the basic needs, when we have shelter, when we have food, when we have, you know, like the luxury of traveling, you know, for developers and programmers, they have this privilege in these days of earning so well. When all of these are met, what will make a company stand out, right? If not an amazing, you know, purpose to wake up the next day and go there and have an amazing team, you know, amazing culture where people respect each other. So I think a mission and a culture where people feel seen and heard and part of something greater than themselves, it's something that it's so important for us to work on. And this is the problem, right? When we agree on the panel, we should be like, you know, like giving different perspectives as well. But like, I feel that I truly agree with what Rodrigo shared.
I have 3 questions, in fact. So, Francois, would you want to add something in this?
No.
Okay, I have one question from Jordan, in fact, 2. And he asked, what resources, access to technologies are there in companies that, as universities, we can do not have access to? That's one. And then the complementary question is, can we really do relevant research in academia or is there such a huge demand for super processing and access to trillion of data that we can't do relevant research at the university? I'm translating at the same time, so do you understand the question? Can we do relevant research at the university without, I would say, have a strong connection with industry? Good question.
What? Yes, of course. I mean, no. It would be a catastrophe if people could not do good research in the academia. No, but I can only speak for what I know, which is more like the AI and the deep learning stuff and the music generation. How can I turn this into something not too negative? But I have the impression that too many people are just imitating, they're following the trends, right? And it's probably inevitable, and it's probably useful that many people do the same things. But if you talk about music generation, there is very little. So people are in the academia are really, let's say, technology driven. So there is a new algorithm out there, they want to try it, and they don't understand something which is so important, is that what has value is not the solution, it's the problem. So there are always going to be engineers who are going to find solutions to problems, and actually these solutions very often they don't last very long, especially in AI, because there is always another guy later that comes up 6 months later as a better solution. And so what has value is people who invent problems. And of course, if you invent a problem and then you also propose a solution, it's even better. But in the end, what remains is the problem, is if you discover a new sort of problem. And I can say, for instance, what I learned by being in the so-called industry is something I didn't like at the beginning, which is what they call user studies. And Eddie has also talked about that. When you talk to artists, try to understand what they want, that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of this in the industry, because in the industry, people are obsessed by the problem. Is my product going to be actually useful? Is someone interested, right? So in the academia, not so much interested in that. But I think that's something that there is probably too much of this in the industry and not enough in the academia. So not user studies, because this is expensive and it's difficult to do, but just try to find something, a problem that no one is working on, or not the half of the planet is not working on that, right? So only you or maybe a couple of people, and that problem is going to be more interesting and it's going to yield probably more results, and even for your career and all that. And actually, there is a quote, I think, by Hinton, you know, the one of the pioneers of deep learning, who says something like this. He says, hey, you should read papers, but don't read too many. And if you have an idea and everyone tells you it's stupid, then keep this idea until the end. You know, that's probably a good sign. So he's telling people actually to do exactly the opposite of what most people do, you know. And I am actually surprised to see the conformity of many researchers in AI who basically all do. So for instance, if you talk about music generation, they think that the problem is, hey, I have a style, I have a database, a data set of music, I want to generate another music in that style. That problem is completely uninteresting. I mean, it's very interesting for technology because you can learn a lot about the algorithms if you do this, and it's completely great to do that. But musically, no one wants to do that. You know, that's not the problem. That's not the point. There are many other problems. So you know, if you are not an expert yourself, then talk to musicians or talk to someone who can help you. As Eddie showed about the lyrics thing. I mean, it's typically discover what people actually need. And just to finish on that, I have never believed a second that academia is doing basic fundamental stuff and then industry is just applying what people do in academia. I have never believed that at all. I don't think it's true. I think it's very rare when it's true. It's true maybe in physics, or but even in mathematics, I'm not sure it's true, because there are no direct applications of pure mathematics. So and I don't understand why. I mean, there are lots of very basic fundamental problems which were actually discovered by industry first. There is a very good paper that I can give by what's his name, the guy who made the LaTeX about that. You know, about how our industry is a way to discover basic fundamental new problems which are actually interesting. So this traditional view that academics is doing the basic stuff, industry is application, I think has never been very true, but today is completely untrue, especially in AI and informatics, and people who do user studies and really ask themselves what is the interesting problem. They are very often in the industry, and those guys are the guys who do the research. They are not the other ones. Is it provocative enough?
Yes, and I
agree 100%.
Yeah, and back in the days when I was, you know, a student, and I heard the people from UFPE and Cesar, and the first time I've heard about the triple helix model, where you have academia, industry, and the government, right? And one of the reasons we went to the academia as a company, as MOISES, was because we know that there's the cutting edge, the juice is there, you know. That it's what Francois is saying. It's not the basic stuff. That's the reason we are partnering with the academia, because we really want to get that, you know, like that edge and that and bring to our consumers that cutting edge technology that we see sitting sometimes on GitHub, but we know that if we connect that to a true problem that is worth, you know, solving, we can, you know, like join both worlds and make the life of people better, you know. So I also agree, like we go to the academia looking for that edge, for that cutting edge, you know, technology that we can you know, offer to people as a product, you know. So we basically productize. So this is what Geraldo, our CEO, did in the birth of MOISES. The folks from Deezer, from France, right? They published, the scientists published on GitHub, open source, the splitter source separation algorithm, and there was no interface. There was no way for someone like me, that I'm not a, you know, like proficient developer, could you know, like get the infrastructure going and you know, get the tracks that I wanted. So he basically created the first product there, you know, like he has a drummer. He wanted to remove the drums and practice on top of his favorite songs. So basically he took something that was done by amazing researchers and you know, like put in front of people who had that problem and help them solve that. So I feel that academia, it's amazing, and we should, as the industry here, representing the industry side, I think this is the best partnership that we can do, you know, like.
Eu vou só fazer adendo aí, de que, de fato, a indústria de desenvolvimento costuma ir até a academia. A gente tem essa também na Daccord, essa cultura de ir até a academia e provocar. Eu, às vezes, sinto falta do contrário, de que a academia esteja também preocupada em entender as pessoas, como a gente, às vezes, está. E aí vou estar sempre aqui disposto a ouvir se eu estiver falando de uma ótica muito externa, talvez de uma impressão apenas que eu tenho por não ser da academia, por não ser de fato da pesquisa. Mas a impressão que nos transmite muitas vezes é de um ambiente um pouco mais fechado, que não proativamente busca essa interação com a indústria, e que muitas vezes pela capacidade até tanto intelectual quanto de visão de mundo, a academia proativamente buscar a indústria para esse tipo enfim, de identificação de problemas, de identificação de experiências. Talvez a gente também tenha por aí um caminho interessante para encontrar encontrar possibilidades muito interessantes. A gente hoje tentando desenvolver soluções sobre como um usuário pode aprender a tocar violão de forma mais simples, mais instigante, sem que isso seja... a gente foi para campo, a gente perguntou para o usuário, a gente perguntou para eles, e eles não sabem dizer. A gente não tem que achar que eles vão... A gente tem que tentar insumos para voltar depois com esses feedbacks e com essas dores, e a partir da academia, que é quem tem a experiência, quem tem o know-how de como testar, de como encontrar caminhos, a gente trazer possibilidades de como a gente vai aplicar o método no produto, né? Mas transformar a pesquisa em produto. Para quem você está pesquisando, né? Quem que vai comprar e quem paga no final, na ponta, por isso que você está pesquisando, né? Existe uma demanda, existe um interesse na sociedade por trás daquilo que você está pesquisando. Então, acho que esse tipo de provocação eu também gostaria de ouvir, de ser chamado, né? Ser chamado pela indústria para cooperar. Desculpa, pela academia, né? Para cooperar.
Very good. I have another question here from Arthur. I'll translate this. How do you think the state of popular music will be in 10 years from now? Can the ease of production brought by computer music jeopardize the originality?
So I have an answer for this. Because I have heard this question already, and my answer is the following: humans don't need technology to make bad music. They are very good at that already. So AI or whatever technology is not going to do anything, because there is already a lot of bad music out there. So that's my joke. But seriously, the reason why I work in this domain is because I believe that some people can do very interesting stuff with AI and music. Obviously, when you have a technology, you can also do it. You can use it in many ways, including to do crap, and that will probably happen. It probably actually has already happened. I'm not going to mention anything here concretely, but so I don't see this as a threat personally, because there is so much bad music out there that I don't see how it can be worse. But that's my answer.
That's the best answer I've heard in a lot of years. I have another question here from Jordan. I think that would be the last one. What direction can you suggest to new researchers starting in the area? For example, it is suggested to your speech that you, in your companies, are trying to find new experience, meaning in music. What are researchers exploring that you feel that can be a game changer in music technology? Good question. Someone?
I mean, it's very. I cannot say. I mean, I can say what I am interested in. Again, I think that researchers should not worry about that too much. They should do what they think what they want to do, because this is when they actually do interesting stuff, when they are completely self-motivated. And so the idea that you are going to borrow a problem from somewhere and then work on that somehow is a bit strange for me when you are in the academia. When you are in the industry, sometimes you don't have the choice, you know, because you have a boss or whatever, so some reasons or constraints. But when you are in the academia, you should precisely not do that. I mean, maybe my answer is not very useful, but just, you know, be an expert in your domain, be a musician, and then think hard about what you can dream that would really help. Maybe it's a system that generates lyrics. Maybe it's a system that solves a completely new kind of problem. like for instance, the rhythm transfer thing we did, that's completely unpredicted. We were working on something completely different, and then one day we had a discussion, in the office, and we say, hey, could we do this? And what would it mean to transfer the rhythm of something into the harmony of the other? And so we tried to do something completely very simple. And then 1 year later, we worked on that. We actually realized that the problem was actually extremely hard, not very well defined, but very hard to do. But we could go with a simple solution. So actually, but how did this originate? I don't know. I mean, we were just trying to do something fun and useful, and that's the key thing. So I could not really say. And also, there are so many kinds of people. There are people who are very good at working on a very well-known problem. That many people work on this, and suddenly this person arrives and does something completely new. That's also possible. But I would tend to think that the best is when you invent a new kind of problem. For instance, Jeber, you remember when you were young, you work on, and myself too. You work on. We worked on, generating the bass for a trio, a jazz trio, that kind of stuff. I mean, no one was doing this. I mean, maybe a couple of people in the world, and no one was interested in this either. There was no industry. There was not even the MIDI was just barely out there. So it was crap, the sound. But we did it because we thought it's the thing to do, right? And that's maybe I'm too old now, but that's the way I still think that the academia people should do what they think should be done, because they are free. And when you are in the industry, you don't have the same freedom.
Such freedom. Really. Sure. We are about to finish our session, but Eddie would like to, and Rodrigo, just to shortly, please, final remarks.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity, like sharing like these thoughts and learning from people like Francois and Rodrigo is something that is always good, and I just feel that the audience here, they have a great opportunity with this event, to learn more about things that they're passionate about and how they can connect in the future when they finish their studies. But I wouldn't say finish their studies, because we keep studying forever. So when they leave the academia, they might be partnering with academia after, so I just feel that follow that passion that Francois mentioned, and things will connect the dots later.
Rodrigo?
Só agradecer, Geber, parabenizar pelo evento, que tá muito bom. Agradecer François e Ed também pelo bom papo. Enfim, vou rapidamente só sobre a última pergunta, deixar também o que para a Daccord hoje é extremamente interessante, que é a pesquisa sobre como a gente pode fazer as pessoas aprenderem instrumentos de forma mais instigante, sem diminuindo a evasão que a gente tem no meio do aprendizado. A gente está nessa cruzada, buscando identificação de acorde, de padrão, padrão de exercícios, enfim, uma série de coisas que a gente está aí investigando e vendo como é que a gente pode trabalhar. Então, quem na academia estiver olhando para essas coisas, procure a gente está aí na luta diária para tentar encontrar uma experiência extremamente inovadora para a aprendizagem de música.
Thank you all. Thank you, Eddie, Francois, Rodrigo. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have, after this, another session. It's Marcelo Vanderlei. We'll make a keynote, so you are all welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.